And today we have a very special guest, Cin Martinez, who is a playwright and amazing artist. And your play is Pagao, the play?
Yes.
Yes, so tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So Pagao is a play that I've been working on for like off and on for 3 years. It started off when I was reflecting on my own family and thinking about that moment or moments where it was like pure joy, no matter what was going on, what would bring joy to the family, and it was around the game of dominoes. So so I started like going on with that and like, okay, so then what else is happening? And then the world of the play just kept expanding, and then here we are to Pagao. And I chose the title Pagao for a number of reasons, and I don't want to spoil it too much. But there is symbolism in the name of Pagao.
Especially for people who may not come from the culture.
Yes.
And
so in Puerto Rico, we call Pagao the rice that's at the bottom of the pot. The part of the rice that you have to scrape.
So good.
It has the most flavor in
Yes.
it. And people will fight for some Pagao.
Yes.
Across the Caribbean, everyone has their name for that layer of rice that's been sacrificed so that the rice above it could be nice and tasty.
That is the best way to describe it. It was a sacrifice that needed to happen, and I will eat that sacrifice every time.
Exactly.
And then I think Jen and myself, we call it
Con con.
So you may be more familiar with that, but it's all the same.
Please let us know what your culture calls it, because I'm curious to find out. Like I said, when I heard Pagao, I was like, that makes so much sense. Because it's stuck at the bottom. It's stuck. Pagao.
Definitely made sense.
But I definitely got a whoop when I was like, can I get con con? And they were like, we don't call it that. We
Yeah.
call it Pagao in this household. My sister, she's Puerto Rican, so I was like, oh, right. So Pagao, you worked on it for 3 years.
Yes.
Before starting Pagao, how did your life get to that point of becoming a playwright?
So basically I was always involved in the theater, and mainly as an actress. Once I joined this ensemble theater company, everyone sort of pitched in to develop a play from scratch, and so I got sort of my feel for writing little by little as years went on in the profession. Then it came to the point where, the idea floated to me. I decided to latch on, and I decided to go on the journey and face all the challenges that comes with writing something brand new. And so I just like little by little gravitated towards writing plays as opposed to just performing them.
So what in your writing has been challenging? Because you said you went through the struggle. So what, as a writer, what has been the challenge?
So specifically with Pagao, when the idea came to me, my dad was still alive. As I began writing the play and asking him questions and asking my cousins questions and trying to get some history behind, like, why dominoes? Why is it so important to our culture? And why do you love it so much? Like, what is it? All right, so I'm like finding all these things out. Then he became very ill. And so I had to stop writing at some point through the process because he eventually passed away, and it was just it felt too close.
Right.
So I had to pause and deal with the grieving process, but also like work with my therapist and trying to get me back in a place where I can use that to fuel the writing, and really sort of have my dad from the other side guide me in the process to like really developing the piece as authentic as possible, as funny as possible, but still move the story forward with the injustices that happened in Puerto Rico to the people of Puerto Rico. So my place takes place in '79, and it was a very vibrant time on the island. So, that was like the most challenging part of this, of like, yes, I want to tell the story. Yes, I feel the need and the urgency to write it, but I'm also very sad right now. And like stuck and getting writer's block because I'm triggered and like, this reminds me, and so I'll cry in one moment. And like, okay, so you need to put the laptop away, walk away right now.
But it's so therapeutic for you to go through that journey, and probably you're in this process, I'm assuming, just reconnecting with a part of him. With your story, I know that it's centered around Abuela's house. So now, is that some story that your father shared with you? Or?
Yeah, so the play just takes place in the grandmother house, the abuela, and she herself in the story is a domino champion in a male-dominated game.
Yes.
So to be a woman, a dark-skinned woman, and a skillful woman at that in the game of dominoes on the island, to me, like, that was a story that needed to be shared. And it does, like, my father's mother is a domino champion.
Oh, wow.
She is Afro-Latina. She is, you know, so so a lot of that character did come from my grandmother, my dad's mother, but some of it also came from my mother's mother. So it's like merging them into one character, and what does that look like? Yeah, just remembering his stories that he would tell me, and how she showed him how to play, and what did that look like, and what did those conversations look like, and did she have to trick them into playing the game, or like treat them to something that they may want to get them to sit down and play with her.
Right. Because a lot of times when you're younger, you don't really appreciate these things until like you're older, or unfortunately when they move on. But like, I don't know if you play dominoes.
Yes, I do.
You play dominoes. I remember having them in my abuela's house, but I just stacked them on top of each other to be like a dollhouse for my dolls. But I never knew the importance, and hearing your story and learning about what your play is about, I can imagine just like how important to the culture, to the community, just the game of dominoes really was.
Yeah, and also that was like a neutral ground for most family members. Like, you may have did something to piss me off last week, but you're my partner right now. So I'm gonna talk crap about what happened last week while we play this game. But by the time this game is over, we gonna be good.
Right.
If we win this game. Now, if we don't win this game, we gotta take this outside, and then we got two things to talk about. But there was a lot of problem solving. But it's a multi-layered experience, because it's not just the game. It's you don't know what's underneath all of that, and what's going on in the family, and how it's being dealt with on the table.
Right.
I want you as my partner. Why you don't want that person? Well, that person pissed me off last week. Well, we're gonna have to sit on this table and we're gonna have to hash it out through this game.
And it's amazing
because
how we found beautiful, creative ways to sort through that. I think, at least in my household, people weren't really talkative about like their trauma or experiences. So I feel like we did find ways, like through playing games like dominoes, like to deal with that. Yeah. But like, you really don't see that until afterwards and you're reflecting, I'm sure.
When you're young, you don't realize all the layers.
Yeah.
Right? And then when you get older, you're like, well, that's why the table almost flipped over when I was 9 years old. Man, I really thought that was about the game. And it was like, no, it was about what else was going on between these two people, and the game just allowed it to, like, again, have this neutral ground, and we're just gonna deal with it, and we're gonna get over it, and we're gonna come back and be family again. So
now you talked about putting in some of your family within the play. Like, where did you find the boundary for yourself to like, oh, I'm gonna talk about this story, then be like, I'm not gonna talk about this story because I don't want to respond to so and so telling me I'm putting people's business out there. Like, where as a creative do you find that balance of? Because I know for us, we're constantly like, do we really want to post that? Like, maybe
we don't want to Thea or anybody coming and say, you told our business.
I don't need my mom.
That's a good question.
There was one particular story that actually did happen in my family that was so unbelievable when you retell it, and it almost feels made up. So it's like, man, I ain't even gonna think that really happened in my family. So we're gonna go with that. Especially like when you're trying to figure out how your grandmother was before she was a grandmother, before she was a mother. Like, what was her personality? What was she? Sort of like, what category did she fit in? Was she like the quiet, churchy girl, or was she the hot feather thing in town? So who was she? And what was life like for her? What did she like to do? What were her dreams? Like, what's going on? Then there was like war, and then like, what do you do when someone you were in love with leave, and you don't know if they're coming back? And then this other guy who didn't go to war, he was in your neighborhood, and you liked him, and then
And also, especially in Latin families, when you have someone who's Afro-Latina, get married or being with someone who's fair-skinned, Latin, and then like having those struggles, because in my family, those were those stories, and I didn't know, like within my own family there was racism going on for me to get here.
So there are like a couple little things, but a lot of the bigger central arcs for the characters are not based on my family. But they're just like one little tidbit story that is actually true for my family. That is probably the last thing anyone will think. Actually is true story.
You just have to guess what it is.
Yes.
Okay, so you talked about themes that are kind of going on. You have obviously the Afro-Latina, the bad hair. Now with everything that's going on in Puerto Rico, if people don't know, please stay up tuned. Like, what are the things that you see, that you wrote about in that time frame of the 79, that you see now still occurring today?
I mean, the biggest thing that happened in my play, and it's sort of already still happening now, is the people rising. The plays in Vieques, and a lot of the fishermen and the folks there always organized to sort of keep the U.S. Navy ships from docking there, and really, in their tiny little boats, I mean, there are pictures of them all crowded on these tiny boats to sort of resist. So the people rising is cycling back again, and so we see it that happened then, and it's happening now again. So sort of like just not the laid back approach to any of the injustices against the Puerto Rican people. They're standing up. They stood up then, and they're standing up now.
And how do you feel about the support that you've been seeing here in the U.S. for Puerto Rico? Because, I mean, they shut down 14th Street, they shut down 34th Street for us New Yorkers. I was like, if they shut down 34th Street, this is real. Like, it's happening. So what do you feel? How do you feel being here versus, you know, if you were there?
I think that, I mean, it was not just in New York. I mean, it was everywhere, all over the states. I mean, even places like Colorado. I mean, we're like, what? Puerto Rico? Colorado? You know, it's funny. I never thought of that.
I'm so down for it.
That's cool. So Connecticut, we had our marches and everything, and shutting streets down. So I think that, I think it sends a strong message that, it's not just the people that live on the island, and that's their struggle and that's their fight to fight. But that the support exists here on the mainland, and
that it really affects us all, because some of those same politics we're seeing, everywhere here in America and all of, this country. And so if it's going on there and we allow it there, it just trickles over. So,
and we're big with family. And if, most of us who live in the States have family still there. And so we're shouting from on this side of the fence, but we are loud about it because we need them to know that we still have their backs, even though we're not on the island with them.
Did you see any challenges in trying to get this play up? Did anybody push back on you or create any doubt?
I think that there were, during like some of the stage readings before it became, before we did the world premiere back this past June, I think there were like some old school folks who attended the stage reading who were sort of resistant to the bilingual culture, the Spanglish side of having these characters communicate. And so they were kind of pushing back, like, it's either got to be all Spanish or all English. You have to pick one. And I'm like,
I don't have to.
Time out. Thank you for your feedback. But here's what I'm going to do. Because there were still other people who were like, I really appreciate how Spanglish this was. I really appreciate the bilingual aspect of it. I really liked how this character spoke in the beginning of her sentence was in Spanish. She ended it in English and vice versa. And I had to really make it clear in my rewrites that two of the characters in this show were one of those kids that lived in PR for 3 years, lived in a mainland for 3 years, went back 3 years later, went back for a year, went back for a year. They were the yo-yo kids. They literally, so they have it so ingrained in their system to speak that way. And so to leave them out, I wouldn't even want to do that, because that is really their true story. So they're able to flip languages like that, and there's a lot of people that feel like they can do that and feel comfortable doing that, and so I'm giving space to them.
And like we were discussing off camera earlier, is that I speak to my abuela in English, but she speaks to me in Spanish. So that is our constant communication. And it's really representative of how a lot of us communicate with our families. So I appreciate that.
And it's funny because there were like tons of people in the world premiere who were like, you know what, thanks for doing that. I felt so connected, I felt validated, but I also like knew what the responses were going to be before the other characters said it. Like you were speaking it, you wrote it, the language so well like that I was with it the whole time.
And I think after the play too, once they have seen it in its entirety, there's a different feeling, I'm sure they felt, and like, okay, well, I understand this a little bit better. And the message is still there, right? So that's really resonating, I'm sure.
Right, and the only character that didn't break language was Willa. She was the only one
that makes sense.
Who was spoken to in all in Spanish and who was spoken to, so it was the only character who just refused to break with Willa. And people knew to respect that and spoke to her only in Spanish as well. So, but when it came to the cousins and it came to Titi Isa, Tia Isa, they're like, oh, we can do this because you're in the mainland right now, you came to visit, both. So that's how they were vibing.
Right.
And I know plenty of people that, so I was like, we're going to stick it just like this. So old school people, they were satisfied when they came back to see it. And the entirety, they were like, well, we're just gonna connect with Willa, and I said, well, that's what you gotta do.
And that's what's beautiful in your play is that there's people are gonna connect with different characters, and I think that's a really beautiful experience to see. I'm
You
sure.
either fall in love with one, fall in love with the next person. It's a roller coaster ride, so you just gotta just buckle up.
Absolutely. Question, how do you feel as a woman being a playwright, how that has shaped you in terms of support or just like the playwright community? Because that's not a community that I know, so I don't know what the dynamic is there.
I think there's a huge wave of women playwrights that have surfaced the theater landscape. Like, I mean, I would say like the last 8 years, like it's just like we are literally like driving it. There's been panels of women playwrights that I've attended like in Harlem that I was just like lit a fire under my tail, and I was like, I just need to do this and like stop thinking there's no space for me, or stop thinking that it would never be produced or what have you, and just get to work.
Right.
And so seeing that they're getting their plays produced made me believe that it can happen for me as well. So there are women way ahead of the curve that made it a little bit more comfortable for me to just take that leap. Because sometimes you come across an idea and you're like, well, dang, that would be dope.
Yep.
Who should I tell it to? Because it ain't gonna be me.
Yep.
But so to just sort of have give yourself that permission to say, there's space for women playwrights now. They're paying attention to us, women of color especially. So just do it. And so
I mean, that's kind of how we came about doing these two Locas. We just had to do it.
Just like, this is never gonna happen if we don't.
Just turn on the camera and start talking. But and then I think through the process you realize like just how many people are out there that's like, I was waiting for you.
Yes.
And then you're like, wow, I have a mission now. Like I have to do this because we want to hear your story.
Yeah, it's scary to like take the leap, but once you do, and someone says, I've been waiting for this, or waiting to see a play like Pagao. You're like, I have more in my creative closet. I have so many more stories I want to tell.
The door just opened a little.
This is good because I have more. It's just like, so the whole dual language plays, and they're being produced more. So it's like, again, it's like, man, I really didn't think this could happen, and then it didn't happen. So now I'm like, all right, I kicked down the door. I'm ready for more. The theater company that did produce the play was they're called Heartbeat Ensemble out of Hartford, Connecticut, and they've always it's a theater for change. That's the mission. So we've always did like plays that you probably wouldn't see in other theater houses that were done in house. So I'm appreciative that they chose Pagao to be part of the main stage for the season this past June. So I'm grateful for that, but I still have, you still have to write a great story, no matter what, no matter if you're affiliated with a theater company, you're an ensemble member of this theater company, you still have to put in the work in order for it to get produced. So
So what is next for Pagao? Like, where do you see it going in the next, I would say, year or so, because it's moving along pretty fast, I'm sure.
I've been having meetings on top of meetings,
Woo-hoo.
and I just got back from Los Angeles. You know, sharing my script out there to their theater houses, but I definitely want to connect with Chicago, Philadelphia, even theaters in Florida, Puerto Rico.
Yes.
I mean, I'm trying to get Pagao in as many places as possible because there's an audience for Pagao, and they're so ready to sit through those stories that Pagao presents. And I think it's just really great timing. So it's just a matter of like, let's get this produced at the right place.
Yes.
Because I mean, that does, it's so important to me that there are theater companies with like great leadership that will make sure they take care of Pagao when they want to produce it.
Right.
So that's like, it's not just, hey, anybody want to put Pagao
Right.
on? Like, no, I need to know why you're choosing Pagao. I want to know you're going to take care of Pagao because that is my baby.
Yeah.
So I need to know that there's going to be Latinos in your design team, on stage. I mean, I need to know that you're hiring us.
Yes.
When you put
Because
this
we all see like what
production
could
on.
go wrong. And let other people represent
Take our
us.
stories.
Yeah, take our stories and represent us. It goes terribly wrong.
Yes.
So
This is another dance when it comes to
Yeah.
trying to see, you know, who wants to pick it up. So,
Right.
but I'm pushing for it.
Nice. So what about you? What's next for you? We have Pagao. We're going across all the stages. What's next for Cin Martinez?
So I'm releasing Pagao. I'm releasing Pagao. I'm moving on to another play that is so different from Pagao, because Pagao is like realism, and this play that I have next that I'm working on is futuristic.
Oh, I love
It's a love story, but it takes on people who work in the social service field, but they are moonlighters and they have other passions that they do when they're not at work. And how do their personalities and what they're passionate about, how does that conflict or give in or do not give in to the roles they play from 9 to 5?
And I love this idea of stories coming out, people of color in the future, because for so long when we think of futuristic stories, we don't see ourselves in the future.
No.
And it's like, what do we look like in the future? I hope we're in the future. You know
Yes,
what I mean?
absolutely.
So I love that these stories are coming out of us in the future. So
Yes.
that's exciting.
So that's my next piece. I'm also still an actress, so I'm still auditioning. Still auditioning.
Yeah, you know,
And-
that's a whole,
You know,
all your talents out there.
Yes, layers.
Yes.
Right now, actually going in a couple days to Miami. There's a film that I was in.
Nice.
Is being premiered in this urban film festival that's happening.
Yes.
Did your family support you entering acting and playwriting? Like, what was the initial thought of when you went home and you're like, this is my job?
Well, here's the thing. Speaking of these two Locas, right? So who am I in my family? La Loca. I mean, I'm the one that I was the clown of the family. You got those big camcorders from back in the day.
Yes.
Once Papi bought that camcorder home, it was a wrap. You didn't even see the red thing on my nose anymore. It was just so official that I was in front of the camera doing all types of things and. Always into music, I mean everything.
Right.
So they kind of already knew that I was a creative person since I was a kid. So it was just no surprise that I kept following that track as I, became a young adult. But they also knew that I was slick and savvy, and that I was very clear that I didn't want to be a statistic and I didn't want to be poor.
Right.
And so when you think of someone who deciding to be a creative person as an adult, you're like, well, yeah, signing up to be poor.
Right.
Like, what world do you think, okay, let's just, take a step back. But my family was just like, she'll figure it out. I mean, they had that much confidence in me that I would figure it out no matter what. But I don't know, it's in secret, right? In secret, were they, like, she done lost her mind. Dang, she gonna call me and ask me for $5. She gonna keep asking me for money for gas. Here it goes.
It's an investment though. Like you invest a little.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll take care of you later.
Invest in my gas, so when I win this Oscar, you'll be the first one I shout out. You know what I'm saying?
Right. When you're comparing, people tend to compare down. So that way, as long as she don't come home pregnant, women, she's successful. As long as she, as long as she,
Yeah.
Do you think male creatives, general question, male creatives have it though? Because I don't think I've ever heard someone tell a man, well, as long as he doesn't come home with a baby mama and a kid, he's successful.
Right.
They're like, what?
Yeah.
If he has a kid, whatever, that's their shit.
Right.
First of all, if the male creative in the family has a kid, it's gonna be, I can leave.
Yeah. Look at you and your
Arms wide open,
Yes.
right? Let's just splash them with holy water while we're here.
Yeah.
So, but as a woman, it's a little bit more pressure. We get way more pressure to be like, well, how are you gonna eat?
Yeah.
Right.
Because I ain't signed up to feed you, so
I
I'll
already
feed you.
had
I'll feed you. But no, for real, how are you gonna get your groceries?
Right.
I think men, in general, in our culture, they're baby,
Yes.
Absolutely.
and they hold on to the boob and they continue drinking
my
mommy's
God.
milk.
Yes.
Forever and ever.
Yes.
Y'all don't even know this, but my aunt is off camera laughing because all she has
right
are
there.
boys.
Yes.
And she has enough.
She
She has enough.
They're not here.
For all of them.
And they still cook the food.
First of all,
for them
and they
make
serve
them.
him.
Yes.
Your way gets me mad.
She's
My
like,
mom knows
they
this.
serve themselves calling you in my
Right.
house.
No,
I don't do
listen.
that.
Till this day, my mother be like, "Oh, the food is done," and then the second my brother walks in, she
Yes.
is at the stove putting a plate together,
Yes.
and I am 2 seconds from knocking the plate off of her hand, be like,
Yes.
"You know what? I'm done with this."
Yes. Or even being told, when my husband came over for a meal, I was told to go in the kitchen
and get it.
and make his plate. I'm like, he can make his plate. He has legs.
Oh, and then when he cheats on you, don't be surprised because I didn't give him a plate of food. You know what?
That is a lie because I have seen women lay chancletas on the feet of their husbands and those husbands will use that chancleta to go to the next wife. So please, save us the lies.
Yes.
Please.
But anyway, so
Yeah.
we went from being a creative as a woman to
Yes.
damn these men.
But it's all it's
Yeah.
true though, right?
It all connects. But yes, the craziness of being a creative as an adult. But the thing is, I've always had the 9 to 5 at the same time. I've always been a moonlighter, essentially. So I'm always used to being in a project or developing a play or auditioning or doing something creative at the same time after I leave my 8 to 4, 9 to 5. That's always been my lifestyle. But at the same time, I didn't always want it to be this way. So I was, even as soon as I finished college, what can I do so I can work less, afford health care?
Yeah,
that's
number one. And still be a creative person and do creative things. And so I turned to being a landlord as my way out of the 9 to 5. Just going that route, taking advantage of all the the first time home buyer programs, getting a multifamily. Okay, so I don't have to pay rent. So that's gonna save me money so I can be able to if I can't work and I'm out of personal time, I can do with not having to get paid because I'm not having a full rent because I have my renter, my tenant paid the mortgage. So now I'm okay, one more property and I can walk away or choose to walk away when I'm comfortable, but having that income coming in will allow me to just put more attention and not, because I'm getting older and I'm more easily tired and I can't hustle like I used to in my 20s.
Yeah.
So I need to continue to keep that in mind. You don't have the energy you had at 25.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need to modify your lifestyle in order to give more energy to what you really want to do and, less the things that you have to do because you have to have your own safety net because you have to have your own back.
That's so smart. And I think real estate is one of those things that we should be more knowledgeable about.
Yeah.
Our community should be
Yes.
to be our own owners, our own business.
Yes.
people.
And what I do too with my tenants is I put it out there to them and I offer myself as a resource you don't gotta do this forever. So
Right.
when you are good and ready, I will show you the way. And so I have two of my tenants.
Yeah.
Show me.
Yeah.
I
have two of my tenants who are like, okay, I'm gonna be ready in December to have this conversation. You tell me all the programs. So I'm literally gonna spend time with them and lay out all the resources they can tap into so they can go from renting from me to having their own multifamily. So
I might need your service.
I'm
very interested.
oh God, no, I'm all for it because especially women in my tribe, women of color, like, are you kidding me? Like, of course I would share you how to get it done because it is not as difficult as people think it is.
Right.
It's doable.
And I think the way things are set up in society, it makes us feel very overwhelmed and feel like where do we start? Who do we go to? So it is up to people like you, and us to really teach our community, give back. So yes, you're in this position, but you're not keeping it all to yourself. You're like, no, I want everyone to learn and grow together.
Absolutely.
And that's
absolutely.
amazing.
Because and it really is, if you really break down the math, I mean, you already in the zone of a mortgage. So it's not like they're gonna be like, you cannot afford this. You actually, I can. I've been doing it this whole time. So it's just really setting your ducks in a row and just really looking good on paper. And what does that mean? What does it look like? And I don't have nothing to hide. I will let you know exactly what they're looking for, and I will let you know timelines of So yeah.
So now we have Cin Martinez, playwright, actress, real estate agent,
homeowner
guru.
It's all about being savvy and hustling and really working smarter, not harder. So so I definitely do not keep it a secret. I am all about helping people also do whatever it is they need to do so that their lifestyle will be more in line with what they really want it to be and less stress. We do for some mimosas.
I'll be there. Okay, next time we know, we'll have mimosas on deck.
It's all good. They're in my trunk. I'll just I'm kidding. They're like, oh my God, she has mimosas.
I was like, this is my kind of friend. I need mimosas on deck Monday through Monday. As trying to be writer myself.
Nice.
Definitely doing a creative anything after 25 just seems like a hurdle. Like you said, you're tired, you're being consumed by God knows what pain.
And your family might be trying to influence you to
be a mother.
He's like, when are you gonna have a baby? I don't even got a boyfriend. That's okay. We'll be here to raise them.
Yeah,
that's the biggest
lie. You don't need to be married. I wasn't married. What?
He's raising her hand in the back. I will take care of all the babies.
I know. That'll be the day. I'm telling you. The hospital, remember when you said you were but day one, bye.
Hit me up when they're 10 years old. Right. I'm ready for that. But no, I think it's always inspiring, and we hope our platform inspires people to still be creative at our age, right? Because everyone's
people give up after 30, mid-30s. People are dwindling away because it's hard to juggle.
Yeah, and especially if you're at your 9 to 5, and everybody seems very comfortable in what they're doing, especially as an artist.
Yes.
That freaks me out.
Yeah,
because I'm there's ever a moment when you're looking around at everybody and you're I just want to run. Get up and not speak to anyone and then disappear. Yes. And then what happened to Cin? I don't know. Yeah. She just walked up and walked out.
And got famous. That was it.
Yeah. But it's very scary. I feel throughout my time, my career, I've always been this isn't me.
Right.
So I have to make a change. So I'm always finding artistically ways to make changes.
And you have to talk to people too, because they might have that answer you've been looking for to how to get it done. So you don't have to just stay in your head and your mind and just keep wishing that things were different. You just got to keep plugging away and really saying out loud to the universe, to your friends, to people who you just met, on what is it that you really want and what it should look like. Right. Because they might say, oh, I can help this way or that way. You just never know. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, let them know where they can find you one more time.
You can find me on cinmartinez.com. That's CIN Martinez.com. And you can follow me on social media as well. The same handle, or Pagao the Play.
Yes. Follow.
Thank you again, guys, for tuning in. Thank you, Cin, for being again.